start webinar. Good morning. We are just waiting for a few more people to join. We can make a start. Well, good morning, everyone. This is the third part of the four-part series for TUC Disability Network Group. Thank you for joining us again. In today's session, we're talking about the very important accessibility requirements within the public sector, which is a legal requirement and both in digital and physical. So to start this, I would be introducing you to my colleague, Dr. Neil Rogers, and also my colleague, Anna Moody, who's going to give us some housekeeping rules again, and then we can make a start. Thank you. Over to you, Anna.
Yeah, so housekeeping. What's the housekeeping? Hang on, I haven't opened my file. I do apologise. Just 2 seconds. Housekeeping is we have the wonderful Verbit doing captions for us. Thank you, Verbit. You've been wonderful so far, and they provide a transcript at the end and captioning on the recording, which you'll all receive in your inbox afterwards. There'll be a Q&A at the end, so please put any questions in the chat and we'll address it towards the end of each presentation. We've got 2 this morning. And please be respectful to all others. We want everyone to feel welcome, safe, and able to say what they've got to say in an open environment. And if you'd like to switch on your captioning, go to the bottom of the Zoom screen and click the closed captioning, show subtitles. So that's it. So we're going to go into the first presentation, which is with NASA. We were supposed to have our other colleague Rehan, but unfortunately he's unwell, and so we couldn't do it. So we're going to have actually the man himself, Dr. Nasser Sayabi, doing the presentation for us. So we're going to be talking about the built environment.
It's a pleasure. Thank you. Well, let me put a context. And first, good morning. Anna mentioned about the captioning, and again, thank you to Verbit. The captioning is actually a very essential accessibility for people who are hard of hearing or people who have, let's say, on the neurodiversity spectrum. Most companies nowadays use either Zoom or they use Microsoft Teams, and they can use the built-in automatic speech recognition system. Now, it's fantastic. It's obviously as a new development since the COVID, and it's become kind of forced the world to be more inclusive, albeit for business reasons. And now that's a kind of a benefit that people who are in need of that service are actually enjoying it. However, the ASR, or the automatic speech recognition, are not very accurate. I mean, they're very good for what they are, but it all depends on the speaker or the microphone or the speed of your internet. So if the accuracy falls below a certain, like 90%, people who are deaf or people who are on that spectrum, like autism, they find the context missing when they read the transcript. So you need really to be very accurate with your transcription and with subtitling. Now, obviously, there are two ways of doing that. One is to have human captioners. These are stenographers who work in courtrooms. They really type extremely fast and they're very accurate. Or you use a technology like Verbit is doing, is to take the automatic speech recognition with a very short delay of about a few seconds. Somebody corrects their mistakes because they're hearing this conversation and making sure that what is said is reflecting what is on the caption. So really, if you are ever representing one of your members who are struggling to get the employer to include them in meetings, and they do need this, there are alternatives to this to have a BSL interpreter nearby, which that should be also made available next week in the next week's session, which is about hearing loss. But certainly, accurate captioning is the only way to make sure you include everyone who participate in calls. So as a takeaway from this, I would encourage all the employers to ensure that the option of providing accurate captioning in part of their everyday business. Having said that, we want to move on to the first part of our conversation. Now, this is all about the legal requirements of every organization has to provide accessibility, whether it's a physical or digital. It is actually part of the employer's responsibility to ensure that both their employees and the employers and the customers are covered by this. And so I'm going to cover the physical aspect of it because a lot has changed since last year. Many organizations have opted for their home working, which is obviously here to stay, or could be a hybrid working, still partly at home, partly at work, going back to the office. From our experience, quite a large number of employers have actually said they want to keep the element of home working still going because it's working really well. But for some situations, people have to go to the office. And obviously, offices are no longer how you used to be. A lot of change has happened in terms of rearranging desks and locations of the office and the arranged, the furniture have been put. Now, that's going to cause a lot of barriers for people who are disabled, whether they are visually impaired or they have some issues with, identifying with their environment as a routine, and people like on the neurodiversity, for example. So what we don't really want to do is to leave them outside this conversation or return back to work. So one of the things that we would be encouraging all the employers to do to re-audit all the new workspaces before they open up their doors to colleagues to get back. And this is really where we think that has to happen urgently. We have had clients who've told a blind employee not to come back to work because of social distancing, because they don't have anyone who could actually guide them through the new arranged, how the office has been rearranged. Now, we shouldn't really have to put up with that kind of a policy because, quite frankly, some people can't stay at home for many reasons, and we can't really force them to. And the fear is, if they don't make the adjustment, these people would be the first wave of redundancies because they're not really good for doing their job. So it's a very important issue. So Microlink has been working on that for many years, and obviously the kind of things we do, which is there are several companies, organizations who do this. I'm just highlighting the kind of service that the employers need to have. It's not very expensive. It certainly is important to have, and it should be kept up to date. So the kind of things you need is signage. You need, you need to make sure that people have quiet rooms, and you need to make sure there are no obstructions and physical barriers in the way. So, a typical work involved is, someone goes around, looks at the plan of the place, looks at inspects every part of the building that requires, prepares a report, and then recommends a solution in terms of to make it more accessible. And that really is a very quick process, doesn't cost a lot of money, and it certainly will remove a lot of headaches as well as litigation, because some people could rightly go to take their employee to tribunal. And so, these are really typical things that are missing in organizations once you rearrange buildings. Inadequate signage for people who basically blind, let's say tactile kind of signage, or people who are neurodiverse or with cognitive disabilities. And very much like, again, if you go into glass buildings and glass rooms, you really can't just expect people with visual loss to find their way around. Making sure that you have the correct hearing loops for people who are attending meetings, if they've got hearing aids, and so on and so forth. So there isn't really a lot of changes, but those changes that are put in are quite important for disabled colleagues coming back to the work. And so really it's not that rocket science. And I do think that it's something that we should be really reminding all the employers to start, if they haven't already, to start doing it before life gets back to normal. That's all from me, and I'll pass that to my colleague Neil, who will talk about the other important digital accessibility. Neil, over to you.
Thank you, Nasser. I'm just going to hopefully share my screen here. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes, Neil.
Okay, that's fantastic. Okay, so in this presentation, I'm going to cover digital accessibility, and to just very briefly cover assistive technology. I'm then also going to talk about what the potential barriers are for disabled people, and also how to overcome those barriers. I'm also going to talk about finding out more about our accessibility e-learning platform, and to see some of the features. So I'm going to actually provide a little demo for you. And then the presentation will conclude, followed by a workshop Q&A session. So just what is digital accessibility? Well, it's the process of ensuring digital technologies, services and resources such as websites, mobile apps, ebooks, and documents are specifically designed with the needs of disabled people and additional needs in mind. It's also designed so that that they're flexible and can be customized to meet individual needs. So by customization, that simply refers to things like being able to alter font size, maybe change the color of text, the color of background, the color of the background, and these help people who have cognitive impairments or who are neurodivergent. So other aspects of digital accessibility, so that's they created so that they're compatible with assistive technology. A little bit more about that later. And they're also compliant with recognized accessibility guidance and regulations. So in particular, we need to ask, okay, why do you need to be compliant? Well, first off, the public sector bodies have a legal duty to ensure that their websites and mobile applications meet accessibility regulations. So this is referred to as the public sector bodies accessibility regulations, or the shortened version PSBAR. So at this stage, all public sector websites should now be accessible and compliant to the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines 2.1 Level AA. And they should also include and update an accessibility statement on their website. In most cases, people put this somewhere on their homepage or perhaps somewhere in the footer of their web page. So just to continue on in terms of PSBAR, the following are items that must be addressed to comply with these regulations. So, for example, pre-recorded audio and video published after the 23rd of September 2020. That must be addressed. Also, PDFs or documents published after the 23rd of September 2018 are also need to be addressed. And the accessibility requirements for new, existing, or outsourced mobile applications also apply. And the deadline for this was yesterday. So this is actually happening right now. And just to point out that public sector websites are currently being audited, literally as we speak, by the Central Data, Digital and Data Office, and this is being enforced by the Human Rights Commission. And so this is a real something that is happening right now. So just going to move on. And just to look at who does digital accessibility affect. So the goal of digital products is that they need to be usable by disabled people. So this would include perhaps people who are without vision or with limited vision, without perception of color, or perhaps without hearing or with limited hearing. So also, it might be people with limited dexterity, or perhaps with limited cognition, and also perhaps without speech. So as mentioned, just going to cover very briefly here a little bit about assistive technology. So what is it? Well, assistive technology, or AT, the shortened version, is any item, a piece of equipment, software program, or product system that is used to increase, maintain, or improve the functional capabilities of a disabled person. Now, I've deliberately read that out because that's actually a formal definition, as you can see by the ATIA in 2021. Okay, so just talking a little bit more about assistive technology features. So just to be aware in terms of some of, sort of what are the potential issues or problems that people might face. So this is one particular aspect, or is users, for example, may know they need to alter font size, but they may not be aware that this relates to digital accessibility or assistive technology. It's also important to realize that users may be non-technical and require support, information, or training, and particularly training on demand. A bit more about this later. So what I'm just doing here on this slide is just to give you a very broad overview of this, the different type of impairments that we've mentioned. So I won't go through absolutely every single one of them. So what we have here is, for example, if you look at, say, cognitive impairments. So if one of the barriers that might occur is that there's no customization available. And so the impact of this is that it might cause distraction or increase difficulties in reading. And so stakeholders' awareness of this is perhaps limited. So as mentioned earlier, customization relates to being able to alter things like text color, background color, and if you're a dyslexic person, being able to alter the color of text and background color is actually a very important assistive technology that you can use. Now, Other impairments, such as if you're blind or you have a partial visual impairment, you tend to rely on having keyboard access. And if you don't have keyboard access, that prevents navigation around software programs, websites, and lots of other sort of aspects. So again, that's a really important thing to take into account. Okay, so essentially we've got lack of color perception, issues with dexterity, hard of hearing or deaf, and those without speech. So as you can see from the slides, I can also make these slides available afterwards. I won't go through all of these, but essentially you have barriers for each. As I said, I've just gone through cognitive impairments and vision impairments, and you can see the impact in the third column, and then just given sort of general stakeholder awareness of these. I'd just like to now move your attention to what we refer to as combinatorial impairments. All this simply means is if you are an older adult, and you may have age-related disabilities due to onset. So if you look at the table on the right, it's essentially, it could be a combination of all of those impairments, or perhaps one or two or even three of them together. The other aspect, just to draw your attention to, is what's referred to as situational impairments. Now, I'm sure you've probably all experienced this. So, for example, screen glare under direct sunlight. So that's a great example of a situational impairment. So how do you overcome these barriers? Well, in short, you simply make sure that you provide things like customization, so in terms of a solution, and keyboard access, or if, for example, you have issues with color perception, that you provide additional information such as shape and pattern. So just as an example, if you have say a bar graph and it's got lots of different colors on it, imagine trying to look at that in black and white or in grayscale. It would be very difficult to tell the difference between the colors on the bar graph. So as to perhaps just include additional bits of information, perhaps above each bar, that maybe gives a value or a quantity, something along those lines. It just helps a person who can't perhaps see the colors properly. So in terms of combinatorial impairments, to include all the solutions in the table on the right. And then in terms of situational impairments, to be able to overcome issues with trying to read a screen in direct sunlight, all you need to do is turn up the brightness on your screen. That's a tremendous help, and people are perhaps not necessarily aware that will actually help them. The other alternative is if you have like bespoke devices like e-readers, for example. So I'm sure you've probably come across like the Kindle Amazon Paperwhite, and you can actually read that screen in direct sunlight without having to alter contrast or anything like that. So just moving on. Just want to briefly talk about best practice here. So in terms of understanding that it's important to realize that authoring accessible digital content prevents future remediation. So we recommend adopting essentially habit-forming approaches when authoring documents to minimize accessibility barriers. And then to ensure that all stakeholders are aware of this information. Okay, so I just want to paint a very sort of broad picture of the digital accessibility services we offer at Microlink. So I'm going to be talking specifically about accessibility in e-learning in a moment, but we also provide web, mobile, and format auditing. I won't go into all the sort of the technical details underneath, but essentially we ensure that, particularly for web and mobile, that we are meeting the PSBAR requirement of WCAG 2.1 AA, and we also are able to remediate high volume of PDFs. So now I just want to draw your attention to the accessibility e-learning. So this is in terms of, we cover authoring accessible digital content and increasing awareness and use of AT. So this is where I'm now going to focus on our accessibility e-learning tool. So the platform uses learning campaigns to teach stakeholders how to author accessible digital content. So this is done using is done so that the training is for mainstream software such as Office 365. It also teaches stakeholders about the availability of assistive technology and how to use mainstream AT software such as Clara Read or Dragon Naturally Speaking. So one of the dedicated learning campaigns is for neurodiversity, and the platform also has over 50,000 video tutorials for using mainstream software. So as mentioned, Office 365 and so on. It's also just to point out it also integrates with existing learning management systems or an LMS. So the digital accessibility learning campaigns cover vision, hearing, mobility, and neurodiversity. So neurodiversity, as I'm sure you're probably aware, refers to cognitive impairments such as autism, dyslexia, or ADHD. And just as an example, under neurodiversity as one of the learning campaigns, there's a tutorial that demonstrates the use of the immersive reader for neurodiversity. And hopefully, if it works, I'm going to demonstrate that to you now. Just take a few moments to load up. Okay, so
It's not sharing the sound or the screen. Neil,
sorry.
I don't think but you're not sharing the screen or the audio.
Okay, it's not showing the audio for some reason.
Yeah, that's unfortunately it's not coming through.
Can you see the screen and the captions?
No, we can't see it.
No, it's still showing your presentation now.
Okay, let's try.
Is there not an option for you to share the audio?
Can you see the screen now?
Yes, we can.
Okay.
Alphabet Sideworks.
Is that the Alphabet Sideworks? Yeah.
Yeah.
Alphabet Sideworks. That's correct. Yes.
So,
okay. Just have a look to see why the audio is not sharing for some reason. I do apologize, folks. I'm not sure why this is happening. I've actually shared my computer audio, so it should be picking up.
Try again.
Okay.
No, it's not coming through. So.
Okay.
It's the joys of using.
There's the joys of using
Zoom.
technology. Okay, I have shared my computer audio, so it should be coming through the audio. For whatever reason, it's not. I've also turned the volume up on the media player as well, and it's just not coming through. So what in some senses, this is probably not a bad thing actually, because it would essentially simulate what a deaf person might experience when trying to watch a video. So one of the features available on the platform is to provide captions, and so I've activated them here. So let's hope.
Yeah, it was working fine. Yeah, it's working.
We can hear a woman's voice in the background, Neil.
But very, very low volume.
Very faint,
but that's okay.
Of course, yes.
But actually, it is quite good that captioning actually is helping. But it's not coming through consistently. Did you switch it off?
No.
Yeah, it's working now. Also, your captioning is disappearing on your, what is that, my bar here. It doesn't always show up on my screen. Maybe it's to do with my setting rather than yours. It's working now.
What he's doing, he's playing it from his machine, and his mic is picking it up and sending it. That's why it's bad.
Okay, so just going to reshare my presentation here just briefly. So I do apologize for the sound there. I'm not quite sure what was happening there. The computer audio was shared, so obviously perhaps an issue with the Zoom platform. So okay, just moving on now to the fact that the platform also enables you to select what you already know about digital accessibility for lessons. So if I can just show you here, now this one doesn't actually require audio. I can actually just show you this.
You're not sharing your screen still. It's your presentation.
Okay, sure.
Okay.
Is that sharing?
Yeah, it's okay now.
Okay. So essentially, you can. There is normally a feature that allows you to select if there's an item that you already know, and you just select it. For some reason, it's not showing up on here, but it's essentially it's a little button that appears just next to the lesson plan, and you select it, and that just prevents it from actually running in the lesson. So it saves you having to go through that. And then if we go back to the presentation, and then just to say that the platform itself can actually measure adoption of your accessibility training and assessment across your entire organization, and to determine when adoption actually occurred. So I'm now going to just show you that here briefly. Again, this doesn't require audio, so I can just show you this. Okay, so in here, you just go to the tools section, top right of the screen, and select reports. and you'll see a whole set of data appears. Now, this just gives you a very broad overview of the capabilities of the platform. So you can actually measure, essentially it provides you with a metric of usage, adoption when things are actually picked up. So in this particular example, we've just provided an example here. You can see that, say, on the 6th of the 17th, 2021, adoption actually started to take place, and you can see it start to climb, then drops off a bit, and then it climbs substantially, sort of June, 23rd of June 2021. So it just gives you an idea of adoption rate. So as I said, this is just an example. It also provides, sort of most viewed subjects. You've got all of the data that you require. There's other sort of features available that allow you to drill down into all of that information quite easily. So just based on that, I'm going to now go back to the presentation for the last time, and oh, come on, that's it. And then just to close, so I realise that for many of you, you're probably already still at home. For those of you who aren't, if you're on the office, okay, fine. But this is essentially my take-home message. So you can make a difference by authoring accessible digital content and make others aware of assistive technology. And the Microlink Digital Accessibility e-learning platform is designed to help you and your organization, partners, clients and customers learn about accessibility and the availability of assistive technology. In short, easy step-by-step learning campaigns. And also in final closing, is just to remember this, is that everyone benefits from digital accessibility, particularly during and after the pandemic. So if there are any questions afterwards in terms of the workshop, just to say thank you. And I'll hand back now to NASA.
Well, NASA's had to go on to another call, unfortunately.
Sure, okay, no problem at all.
He did say to me that he wanted us to talk about the public sector, because everything's supposed to be now accessible. So they've been working on the websites and not putting anything that's not accessible out there. But instead of fixing the non-compliant PDFs, he said that they've actually been removed rather than being fixed. Do you know about that? I mean, that was his parting.
Yeah, in some cases, yes, that is the case. That PDFs can actually be removed, particularly if they are inaccessible. But the Central Digital and Data Office will be working with parties where that happens, and they'll be actually specifying a given time frame for them to be able to not only remediate the PDFs, but to ensure that they meet certain requirements. So even for a PDF, okay, it's only very specific aspects. They even need to be compliant with WCAG 2.1 AA. So the CDDO will be requiring that, and so yeah, if they aren't accessible, they are, they can be. You can be told that they are either removed, or alternatively, and perhaps even more so, is that disabled people trying to use PDFs or trying to gain access to your website and then download those PDFs and then read them. If they're not accessible, they will go elsewhere. They'll look for information elsewhere. So that's worth bearing in mind.
On one side, I find it really, really exciting, Neil, that I've said this before on the workshops, that when I joined Microlink 7 years ago, it was really, you couldn't find an accessible PDF. Even Microlink, we were still learning how to do all this, and now we do it as a matter of course. But there must be billions of PDFs and files out there which need accessibilizing, so it's not hard to do, is it? It's the reading order, it's the alt tags and all this kind of stuff. I'm learning a lot from you and from Azadeh who do that in our company, but now I automatically think this file needs to be made accessible. And I'm also learning in InDesign and the other programs I use how to start from from scratch, making the document accessible, which is all putting it in your mind, isn't it, to do it. But I am quietly excited that in another, I don't know, year, 18 months, 2 years, we will make a dent in the universe where accessibility is concerned, because everybody's now doing it. All the big companies are doing it. Everybody's talking about it. I think it's coming into its own.
Absolutely, I totally agree with you, and I think also as well that, like you say, it's not just public sector, but also private sector companies as well are in some respects leading the charge on this. So it's to encourage everybody, because it's time for this to happen. So yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah, and also even as NASA said in the opening presentation, that we just, when you're not disabled, you kind of take everything for granted, and now everything I look at, even from going through a doorway, I think, well, how could a wheelchair user get through the doorway? I'm thinking, or I have to wear glasses, and I'm getting older, and if without my glasses I can't see a thing actually. And now I'm looking for high vis things, and I'm thinking, oh my goodness, someone who's got low vision, it must be it's a disaster just going out in the day, in the morning. You got to navigate. It's so much more taxing and stressful. So I am quietly excited that the planet is changing, especially UK, the more developed countries. I'm very optimistic that disability as we know it will become a thing of the past, and everybody will just go about their business however they need to go about their business, which is a joyous moment.
No, absolutely, but I think also as well, Anna, is that it's the fact too that particularly for digital accessibility, it not only impacts disabled people, but it can actually ultimately, as mentioned in the presentation, it can actually impact everybody. Now, not necessarily in a negative way, in actually a very positive way. So just as an example of that is, even during the pandemic, I listen to documents, whether it's fiction, non-fiction. I can actually listen to them on my mobile phone when I go for walks. So if I'm walking in the countryside somewhere, I can plug in my device, I can open up an ebook, and I can actually specify using assistive technologies such as text to speech, and I can actually have the document read to me so that I can hear, so I can be concentrating on the countryside around me as I'm walking, but while I'm listening. So it's a really useful technology.
I use that all the time, because I walk about 8 miles a day, and so I'm permanently plugged in. I've got my earphones and I'm permanently listening to Audible or listening to podcasts. And yeah, I mean, the technology now today, I don't know how I would live without it.
I totally agree. It's literally
embedded.
Yeah, and in fact, actually, as well, also for many disabled people as well, is on their devices. Their devices are their means of wayfinding, finding their way around. GPS. I mean, I'm sure we've all used GPS, etc. So there's a whole host of things like that. That your device is actually quite critical almost to your managing your life essentially. So
we'll all be having chips implanted soon. There was a movie, wasn't there, that said that we would have something put on our wrist, and this would, I think it was a presentation by Vodafone.
Oh yes.
A few years ago, and they said the world by 2030, and this CEO, or this very important person in Vodafone, described the world. So if we all had this little chip, it would automatically, it would have like a passport and a list of needs that we all have, and this would automatically send the data ahead of us. So if we were going to, I don't know, Marks and Spencer's, for example, Marks and Spencer's would have knowledge of our needs before we arrived, walked in the entrance of the shop. And I found this absolutely amazing. I mean, just imagine if that is the case. I mean, that's what Vodafone is predicting. I can't remember, it was a Norwegian lady, I remember that. I don't know if you can find it on YouTube, but it's the World 2030 by Vodafone, and if you can listen to it, I was blown away. It was like listening to a futuristic movie, but it was awesome. And I just thought, well, if that happens, accessible, everything will be accessible, and disability will be a thing of the past.
Yeah.
So I'm hopeful.
No, absolutely. I think also just to perhaps a little thing to add to that is there's what's called BCI, or brain computer interfaces, and when what you're describing is going to happen. There is actually research that currently exists that talks about that. So it's going to happen at some stage. In fact, also there's going to be things that are referred to as contextual awareness. So your device will actually almost be able to, based on your behavioral patterns, will be able to guess, very sort of intelligently guess, what you're going to do next, and it will set things up so that it's already prepared for you.
Yeah,
so you don't
easier.
Yeah, it makes life easier for you, and it will do it automatically for you. But that's a wee way off yet. So you keep an eye out for it, because it will come. It will definitely come.
I saw something with Elon Musk, and I can't remember the name. Anyway, he's got this neuro company,
That's right.
And they had trained a primate to play. You remember the first game that was like, two little bars, and it was beep, beep.
That's right. Yeah.
Remember this thing? Well, it had taught this primate to play the game, but then they had put some kind of something in its brain, and then they had unplugged the joystick that he had been trained to use, and he was only using his brain, but he didn't know that. I mean, he's still using the joystick, but the joystick was very clearly disconnected, and it was the chip in his brain, so his thoughts were controlling the screen. I was blown away by that.
Yeah,
that's like
that's a fantastic example, Anna, because imagine, okay, if you have a severe motor impairment, and you have no means of being able to move your limbs, arms, whatever, and your brain is able to. I mean, wow, was major solution.
Yeah, it gives me goosebumps. I mean, technology. Yeah, we need it. It advances humanity, and I know lots of people are scared of the future, but I think if it makes lives easier, and I think if it opens up a world to people who are trapped, in lockdown syndrome or whatever, but their brains are still working. I mean, that's just amazing. So I'm all for it. I'm a flag waver. I like all this stuff. So anyway, if we've got, I know I'm seeing a couple of people join us, albeit a little bit late. Unfortunately, today's presentation, we've kind of finished. It's a little bit early. I know we had 2 hours, but we've done it in 50 minutes. So we will be sending out. Oh, I'm seeing someone else has joined now.
I was going to say, Anna, perhaps if anyone's got any questions at all about the presentations, maybe you can ask those.
Please ask away. So if you have a question, we're happy. Oh, we've got from Savannah Daly. Okay. So we allow you to talk. Talking permitted. If you take yourself off mute.
That's it. My name's Peter Daly. I don't know why my daughter's coming up. I mean, she was on my machine last night, so I don't know.
Oh, don't worry. That's fine.
Now, I work with a number of companies in terms of representing members. Now, do the members contact, if I find a disabled person who needs some of the work that you do, does the individual contact Access to Work and they contact you, or does the employer contact you? Because
no, the way Access to Work, I think I'm right in saying this, Neil, is that the person who needs whatever it is has to make the initial application, and then the application can be, Access to Work can then be signposted by that applicant to us.
Okay, that's fine.
So that's the way it goes. But I've got your email, haven't I?
Yeah.
So did you send me your email?
I'm sure I did, but I'm not sure. I mean, I can send it. I can send it again after the meeting.
Anyway, we've got it on the, because you've signed up, we've got your email. So what I can do is send you a PDF step by step of how you navigate access to work, because it's a little bit tricky, access to work.
Yeah.
So you got to know all the steps in order to follow them. But yeah, we can, we can provide almost any adjustment that anybody needs. I mean, we're very experienced, 28 years now in the business. So whatever it is, I mean, just email me. I'll put my email in the chat. So if you have any questions.
Yeah, that's fine.
But I will send you the access to work step-by-step guide that we've got.
Because I mean, I'm very aware that it's the individual who contacts, and I didn't realize that they could actually put make that information clear to access to work, that they would like to work with microlink, or
yes, you can signpost, but the applicant has to do it.
It's always going to be the applicant. But I mean, I didn't realize that they could actually say microlink
has what we need.
Because some councils and companies use other people. They might say, well, oh, I know of such and such. Oh, I've got a mate who does this. Well, I'm not that keen on their mates, but I am keen on representing the member and getting the member the best deal.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, Access to Work have their own assessors as well. If you specify what you need, and they know us anyway very, very well.
Okay,
we work with a lot of big corporates, and so we do lots of access to work claims, so they know us very, very well, but they cannot recommend.
No,
because they can't show bias, of course, but the individual can recommend.
Okay,
request rather.
Yeah, that's fine.
So that's it.
Yep, that's me.
Is that it?
Yeah.
No other difficult questions. We're here. We're happy to answer anything if anybody wants to have a. Oh, who's it? Did Lords, did you put your hand up, or was that a quick flick? Oh, Natalia. Okay. Natalia, are you there?
Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
Hello, Natalia.
Hi, Neil. Right. So I'm actually an end user. So I am a neurodivergent myself, and I've just started a fellowship, an apprenticeship, with my employer.
Yeah.
So it's a data management course which lasts 15 months, and we started just last month, and it's obvious that it hasn't been designed with accessibility in mind. So they've got these huge online sessions with live presentations with 60 plus pupils, and then 3 or 4 teachers. And I find it very difficult to follow. It's noisy, people talk over one another, they speak really fast. They give instructions to open documents and links for activities really fast too. So I am completely lost. So I've asked for them to send links to the documents that they want us to access during the course in advance, which they've done. But I still find it very difficult to actually follow the presentation and the class, if you want. So I was wondering if you had some thoughts or even solutions for this kind of situations.
Okay, I was going to say, Natalia, which platform are you using? Is it sort of Microsoft Teams based? Is it Zoom based, or is it?
So they do use Zoom.
Okay, sure.
And the company is Multiverse. I don't know if you've heard of them. Apparently they're really big in training, and because of funding offered by the government, I think many big agencies such as mine, digital marketing agencies, have come into agreements with the government to do these mass programs of training. But my worry is that it's more about volume than quality. And when I raised these issues, the trainers were totally clueless. They didn't know what to say. They didn't know what the provisions should be. When I asked them, even though I flagged it before I even enrolled, I said, these are my conditions and these are my needs. Are you catering for it? And they said, yes, no problem. I said, okay. So I asked for what reasonable adjustments they were putting in place, and they never came back to me with a specific list, because my huge suspicion is that they actually don't have one.
And ours.
Yeah. So now they are scrambling, and they're going to talk to my employer, trying to work out how to actually make the necessary adjustments. But in the meantime, the course is carrying on. Other people are doing their assignments, and I'm running late, and I'm getting really stressed.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
I was going to say, Natalia, I think in that instance, okay, so first off, number one is that if they're not providing reasonable adjustments, they're breaking the law. So you've got that already on your side. They need to, I mean, pardon my phrase, Jolly will ought to pull their finger out and get a move on with it, because you can approach them and say, look, are you aware of the Equality Act 2010? If they aren't, they need to be, because what you're describing, they're in breach of that. So they're actually breaking the law.
I'm afraid that's a swear word. Where in my company we
Equality
don't use
Act.
yeah, we don't use the E word. We you know, you're in trouble if you use the E word.
Oh,
Really?
why,
Okay.
why don't you give them our contact details?
I was going to say that'd probably be the, yeah.
Do a free, absolutely no obligation discussion with them,
Yeah.
and find out, you know, where they are and what they do know, because some companies do have something in place, and then we'll guide them and we'll help you. And you know, even if it's a question of making all the coursework accessible, we can do that.
Yeah.
We can help you.
But is it the responsibility of the training provider? So is it the third party, or is it my employer?
Well,
It's technically it should be your employer.
yeah, because
Yep.
they're the one who sent you on the course.
Yeah,
Right.
and also particularly if they are funding that as well. So if they're paying for you to go on the course, they're essentially funding it. So they are responsible. It's not to say that the third party also needs to have some understanding of accessibility as well, but your employer is ultimately responsible for that.
Right. So my employer should have checked whether they were actually offering these levels.
Correct.
Yeah, but as we said, a lot of people, it's not embedded in their brain yet. It will be. I'm confident it will be, but it's not embedded. So it's, you know, everybody's just going about their business and not thinking about accessibility. So well, flagging this up, this is really good, Natalia. You're gonna educate your employer.
Unfortunately, it is a global agency with thousands of employees. So okay. I am trying to.
Perfect. Give it this perfect.
I am trying to move a mountain, and yeah. So it's a fight I'm taking on with her. But I just wanted to check that point, because they are telling us that the course is worth £15,000. So it's, you know, in my mind, it should be offering this kind of adjustments.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. And like I say, obviously you want to be careful. You need to be perhaps diplomatic, shall we say? But you have got the law on your side, Natalia.
Diplomatic is difficult when you're autistic.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But I do try my best to articulate my arguments, and I do quote a lot of words starting with equality and employment legislation, and yeah, so that's where I am. Well, thank you very much.
You're very welcome, Natalia. And just to say, Natalia, you've expressed your thoughts and ideas, and the issues you were having very well, very articulately. So just to encourage you with that.
Thank you. I think I might start to work in your field, guys, because I'm starting to know a lot about it, and God knows I've been through the messy part, as in experiencing the lack of.
You've experienced it firsthand.
Absolutely firsthand, yeah.
Yeah, it's
you
quite
know
awful.
What other people are experiencing. So they're always the best people to advise others, other people who've experienced it themselves.
So. Yeah. So yeah. Well, I'm actually an advocate in my company now, so I'm trying to organize neurodiverse people so that they can speak and they have a voice. But it would be great if I could get your contact details.
Absolutely fine, Natalia.
I put my email in the chat. Neil, do you want to put yours in there as well?
Yeah,
Thank
sure.
you.
And then when you go to your employer, you're not only offering them a problem, but you're also offering them a solution, because they really can talk to us and we really can.
Oh, absolutely. No, they're trying to send me to Bupa to assess my work.
That's medical.
My work needs. I know, that's what I told them. I said,
that's not medical.
How are they going to work with processes in the workplace? Tell me that. Not sure. Well, I'm not sure either.
Natalia, just give them our emails and just say, look, it'll cost them nothing. A conversation will cost them nothing. A phone call.
Absolutely. Sorry for
no,
absolutely fine.
Conversation.
No need to apologize. Absolutely fine, Natalia.
But if we manage to crack big global organizations like this, I think it will be a big achievement for thousands of people.
No, totally
I agree with you.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
Thank you very much, Natalia.
Welcome. So we've got Peter's email just come through. Anybody else want to say anything? Any other questions?
Does Savannah have a question?
Oh, maybe another one. Peter, do you have something else to say?
No.
Oh, no. Okay.
I'm fine.
Right. Okay. Sorry, because your hand is still up on our screen. So
sorry.
Oh, no, it's not a problem. But we just wondered if you had another question.
No.
So if there are no other questions, Neil, do you have anything else you want to say, or are you?
Just literally just to say, I've just put my email into the chat for all the panelists, so it's there for you to have.
Great. And I've got Peter's email, so I'm going to send him the access to work. And is there another one there? Neil's there. And there was one more further up. There we go. SK Dehanda, who wants a copy of the presentation. Sure. Everything is being sent out after the I think it goes out tomorrow morning once we get the transcript from Verbit, our captioning service, and then everything goes out tomorrow, so you get all the presentation and everything. Okay, copy of presentation. So I think we're done.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Dr. Neil Rogers.
You're very welcome. Thank you to everyone for.
Pleasure as always. Lovely to see everybody on the call. And so we have one next week, the last one of the workshop, which is the 30th of June, and it's at 2 p.m. in the afternoon, and that's all around hearing loss. So it's all the solutions, everything you can think of around hearing impairment. So see you there.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.